there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 26, the week of November 10th, 2023. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co-host, Mads Sassy. Mads, how are we doing?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. For many parts of the country, election week was the best week. And as someone who lives in, from Kentucky, but currently lives in Ohio, it was a very exciting week.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. In terms of both, Eddie Bashir getting elected to be governor again and beating out Daniel Cameron, who is an absolute twit. Just the worst kind of person. And then in Ohio, the big abortion bill passing, which was also very exciting. So it's a lot of good things happening election-wise this week, and what is normally not the case. So it's a very good week. Let's move into some actual news this week. Not that wasn't actual news, but some TV news. So for an update on the strike, and our final update on the strike is over, guys.
And someone pointed out that they announced that it was over on 11/8, which was the 118th day of the strike, and they're like, "Look at that! It's it's symmetrical or whatever." And I'm just like, "Yeah, but the strike didn't officially end till 11/9, so your reasoning is bogus." But it's still great news.
Still great news. It's still the longest strike in the longest actor strike in history.
Yeah. And it sounds like they were able to get quite a bit of what they had been asking for.
Right. Yes. So the AMPTP made a deal with SAG-AFTRA, which amounted to $1 billion deal. Covered greater residuals, greater protections, especially AI protections as it relates to consent, and future use of actors' likeness in television and movies. Which, for what I've heard, is not a perfect deal, but is a very good deal, nonetheless.
Yeah. Because I think one of the other things that wasn't quite exactly what they wanted was with regards to streaming. And it's that actors get a yearly bonus related to streaming, not a residual kind of thing related to streaming.
Right. But
which I'm like, it's not the worst thing in the world.
No. And it puts them in a good position to renegotiate 3 years from now when the next contract expires. But we could conceivably be in the same place 3 years from now, or who knows what happens. IATSE and the animation guilds still have to strike soon, or decide whether or not to strike. All indications point to the fact that they will, in fact, strike.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens when we get there. I have no idea what will happen. But the good thing here is that everyone can go back to work now. The entire industry is open again. Production can resume. I was thinking about this, though, because now, and this is strictly TV, we're in the shows are in a really sticky position. Because on the one hand, you have maybe 5 weeks left of the year to film, because shows usually break sometime in December, so you have at most the first or second week into December before everything um, breaks again.
Yep.
And most people think right now that a lot of shows won't be ready to go into production until the end of the month.
Yep.
Which,
So they'll basically have like a week or two.
yeah, which at that point you might as well not even try. Um,
Yeah.
and
So
on the
I feel
other,
like most of them are gonna probably look at the new year being a starting point.
right, yeah, and on the other hand, um, a lot of these shows are gonna want to be out by March and April for Emmy consideration months
Yep.
for that deadline. So that gives them a very narrow window to operate in to
Yeah.
film and then get it out. So
So
yeah,
definitely actors are gonna be crunch time and but like so are the, behind the scenes people as well.
yeah,
The editors and the everything. Like it's gonna be crazy.
right. On a script level, we've had a little bit of a head start um,
Yep.
over the last few weeks since writers have been able to get back to work. So that might alleviate a little bit. And we're in a better position here than we were back during the 2007 strike.
Yeah.
Because the problem with the 2007 strike was that you had the actors, but you didn't have any writers. So you're still filming, but you didn't have any actual professional scripts.
Yeah.
And this is different because,
This time we had the writers, but not the actors.
right, yeah, after a certain point. So we're not going to have like the. that period where it's like, oh, you can tell this wasn't written by actual writers. Well, it'll take
Right.
longer for it to get back up to speed. Like I doubt we'll see anything new before March.
Yeah.
Like from this current block, but it'll get there.
Yeah, and I was having a conversation with my friend Laura today where I was like, "Yay, the strike is over." And Laura and I, for context, Laura and I used to do a 911 Lone Star podcast. And we started off with the intention of we actually still enjoy these shows. We like these shows. But by the end of last season, we were like, Jesus Christ, just let these freaking shows end. And so I messaged Laura today. I was like, damn, I wish 911 and Lone Star had been like part of the victims of this strike. Because they're okay shows. They're not that great though. And so it's just like, ugh. So
Right.
there are some shows that I'm like, you can take your time coming back. I am totally okay. I'll be fine. And like one of the 911 related Instagram accounts, like a couple days ago before the strike ended, was like, or right when the strike ended, they were like, um, you know, we miss Owen Strand, like the Owen Strand, like hiatus is almost over, something along those lines. And I was just like, barf, because Owen Strand is the most obnoxious character in television that I've had to endure in the last like 5 years. And I'm like, no, that is not your selling point for your show, but okay. It's Rob Lowe, so it is a selling point for
Right.
the middle-aged women, not so much me.
Right. Well, on that note, I put this out on Twitter and Blue Sky, asking people what shows they're most excited to see come back now that the strike is over. And I got a good responses back. Couple mentions about Abbott Elementary,
Mm-hmm.
Severance,
Yep.
Ghosts, the U.S. CBS version of Ghosts, Stranger Things, which will
Be 5 years from now. No, I'm
I
just
don't even
kidding.
know I don't even know what to say about that. Also, Sandman from
Yes.
former co-host of the show, Logan Dalton. Which yes, I'm also
I'm also very excited for that. I agree.
also very excited about that. Also, and I don't even know if this is strike related. It's probably not, but Arcane is coming back in November.
Yeah, I saw you post that you were like, "This is the one that matters to me," and I was just like, "Okay."
I
I'll
love
take you with that.
Arcane so much.
To be fair, I'm most excited about the Connors coming back, but I know I'm in like the minority of that because I love that show a lot. I just know there's not a whole lot of people that do. But to be fair, as sad as it is to say that, between it and Abbott Elementary, I think they're the strongest shows that ABC has on their comedy Wednesdays. So
Right.
I will say it got much better when they got rid of Roseanne. It the show is a lot better because Roseanne is not there. And it's definitely more quote unquote woke than the 90s sitcom version of This Family was.
Mm.
But I freaking love it because it focuses on the daughters and Aunt Jackie, and Aunt Jackie's just hilarious. So I'm ready to like have that come back because Laurie Metcalf is just a masterclass actor.
Right.
So
Yeah. I'm also excited for Yellow Jackets to come back.
mhm.
Which I mean, obviously a show that I love. And also Evil,
Yes.
which they've been the people behind the scenes like Katja Herbers and the Kings have been hyping up lately after the strike ended about
Because
coming
didn't
back.
they'd been renewed and they were in the process of filming when the strike happened, right?
Right, and as I understand it,
Yep.
they had filmed most of their season.
Yeah. So had expected that they were still going to air it and then they didn't. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll just watch. I'm happy for it whenever we get it.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Because I
imagine
love
they'll be
that
in
show so
production for
much.
like a little bit, and then be able to come back pretty promptly, like within like the first quarter of the year. So I'm very excited. I love Evil so much. What a
Me too. It is such a good show.
what a weird little show.
It's weird, but I love
It's,
just the way that it looks at every case from like 3 or 4 different perspectives is just so great. I love
mhm.
it.
Yep, yep. Uh, yeah, a great
Did
show.
not expect it to be as good as it is.
Yes. A
No
great,
shade, but like seriously.
no, a great show that I used to cover at Telltale TV. Um, so much fun to write about.
I covered it last season for like half of the season, I think. Um because it became available and I was like, absolutely, I'll cover this.
Yeah, you probably took. That was probably
I probably did take it from you, to be
you
honest.
did. I mean, I think you did take it from me because I was right after I left.
Well, then it's good that we'll have it to talk about hopefully someday soon.
Yeah. Also, Star Trek Discovery, but I think it was already supposed to come back.
Yeah.
I think it was already supposed to come back in like February or something, like early in the year.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about that. It's the last season of that show.
And I'm hoping now that the strike is over, we'll start to see renewals coming in as well. Because it's kind of a tricky business figuring out renewals when half the industry is on strike.
Right.
So like now that we've gotten the actors back in the ball game, I feel like renewals might start coming in again.
Oh yeah. And that's gonna be across the board. Everyone, you're going to experience a deluge of just news.
Yeah.
Like a mountain's worth of news over the next month.
Hmm. It's gonna be a lot.
It's gonna be a lot. So like between now and like February, it's still gonna be like a little shaky TV wise, but we're gonna get there. I
Yeah.
mean, the good thing is we're still gonna be talking about Adventure Time and Fantasy High for like until March. So
We have plenty of content.
yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah, because I recently looked up like how many episodes are in Fantasy High, and I was like, oh, okay.
It's a lot. But elsewhere in the news, there was a report that came out, I believe, from the Hollywood Reporter, that said Nexstar, who bought the CW last year,
Mm-hmm.
has lost a reported $60 million in ad revenue.
Oh darn.
Oh darn! Yeah, I joked on Twitter. You mean to tell me that your Jesus show did not pay the bills? I, for one, find this shocking. But like, what did you think was gonna happen? You completely redesigned your entire network
Mm-hmm.
and alienated an entire fan base, which is everyone who watched your network, who
Mm-hmm.
now actively roots for your demise. Of course, and like you banked on like a audience that doesn't watch television. Like you banked on like an older generation of viewers who don't watch television and have no reason to be interested in CW, no matter what
Mm-hmm.
you insist that it is now. Like, it's the gift of like, hello, you played yourself. Like, what? How could this have gone any other way?
Well, they felt like they were going on to greener pastures, but clearly it's just dead grass because
Right.
looking at that 60 million.
Yeah, and I mean, I've said this before, but it's like everyone always thinks that like they can make this massive amount of money with TV, and you can't because TV's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the CW couldn't have made money over the last like 20 years or over the last like 15 years, what makes you think that you Nexstar are capable of this? Like, the delusion that requires is astounding to me. But whatever. I will dance upon your grave when you die Nexstar. So let's move on to the goat.
Let's.
So the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them against each other on a poll on Twitter and TikTok. Last week, I nominated The Magicians, Season 3, Episode 5, A Day in the Life, and
Mm-hmm.
Mads nominated White Collar, Season 2, Episode 10, Burke 7. I won last week.
Okay.
Victory feels great.
Victory feels great.
10 out of 10, would recommend. Uh, so Mads, you get to go first with your new pick for the GOAT.
All right. So we were talking about evil just now, and so like I was just thinking about the show, and like my favorite character on the show is Ben Shakir. I believe he is probably one of the strongest characters on the show. Um and I think that because of the way he looks at each situation they're put into, he looks at it from a very logical, scientific standpoint, and it's not very common that shows like evil use that perspective. But not only that, he's not an asshole, because a lot of times if they do put in that perspective, the sciencey logical person is an asshole to the other people that believe in the spiritual or the um otherworldliness of ghosts and spirits and things like that. And he's not. He looks at his colleagues and he says, I see what you're saying, but I raise you a scientific theory here. And he's very kind about it. And he's also very good with people in general. He's a peaceful person. He's very sweet and he's kind. And Kristen's kids love him. And I love scenes with him with Kristen's kids because it's just such a nice juxtaposition to all the like dark and crazy things that happen on the show. So yeah, I really wanted to nominate Ben this week because He's just a light in the darkness on that show.
Nice. The thing I really enjoy about Evil is that it's taken like the X-Files thing of like skeptic and believer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like divided it three ways, where like the faithful, the science nerd, and the psychologist. Where
Mm-hmm.
they're both very distinct belief systems that I really enjoy, which and been like inhabiting that like Scully perspective strongly
Mm-hmm.
is great.
Yeah, it's such a genius show.
Oh, I love it so much. So my pick for the good this week, I was thinking with the finale of Loki this week and the last Marvel show we'll see for probably a little bit. Thinking about the other Marvel shows, and I came around to the single best episode that Marvel has done so far, which comes from WandaVision,
Mm-hmm.
which is single-handedly also the best show that they have done so far, and perhaps the best Marvel show.
Absolutely.
Period. Um,
Which the spinoff is something I'm looking forward to.
yes, but this is WandaVision episode 8, previously on. Which takes the trope of like character talks to a therapist the entire episode and inverts that really nicely, where you go on a journey with Wanda throughout this episode of past traumas in her life that has led her to where she is in WandaVision, and also later in Multiverse of Madness, which we don't have to talk about, and things like the death of her parents being bombed by a Stark missile, and the death of her brother, and the death of Vision. All things that kind of coalesce into where she is now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a really wonderful, understated episode that also has the great line that many people debated, but is nonetheless a great line of what is grief if not love persevering,
Yep.
which is again great line. We don't need to debate this. uh, but yeah, just filled with really strong performances throughout, with Elizabeth Olsen mostly acting off of Catherine Hahn, um, and the two having really good chemistry and banter throughout the episode, and also just seeing the pieces of trauma that's laid out in this episode, and really seeing like Wanda's relationship with sitcoms and the like the power. It's really an episode about like the power of television that feeds into the entire show. Um, so yeah, like just one of the best episodes that like Marvel has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really impressive because I listened to the I was listening to the audiobook for the MCU, The Raid of Marvel, I think it's called, by Joanna Robinson and Dave Gonzalez, and it really shows that like they had no idea what they were doing making TV.
Mm-hmm.
Really, truly had no idea what they were doing. So to make WandaVision, really,
Their method was definitely let's throw things at the wall and see what sticks.
no, literally, that is what happened. And like one hand was not talking to the other for for like most of the TV shows. which is why like Nick Fury is acting in the Marvels. Like most of the people in his life are not recently deceased. But so that is my pick for the GOAT this week. WandaVision episode 8, previously on. So you can go vote for both of these on Twitter and TikTok, and you'll have 2 days to vote once the poll goes up. And be sure to like and share these polls on whatever social media platforms you are currently using. And also be sure to email us at Not a TV Podcast and on our Twitter, Blue Sky, and Twitter accounts. Without anything else, let's jump into the rest of our show.
It's been good to know ya. This goodbye felt worst of all. No defining closure, no instruction manual. If you thought to call me, I would answer every time. Breaking up is funny. I forget you aren't mine.
So our first show for this week is continuing our rewatch of Adventure Time with Season 5, Episode 33, entitled Time Sandwich, Episode 34, The Vault, and Episode 45, Blade of Grass. A lighter week of Adventure Time fare, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the really, truly lighthearted one, Time Sandwich. Which has the return of Magic Man. Screwing
Dude,
Jake.
that was, I loved it.
It's so good.
And I love that he reached through time, the time portal, to slap Jake across the face from across the room.
Right.
Like, I thought that was the funniest part of the episode, and I was like, this is genius.
Yeah. But let's talk about Jake's sandwich, because it is a truly all-time great sandwich. Like, I would never want to put in the amount of work that goes into making just a sandwich, but it is so good.
But I mean, listen, I'm the kind of person that you put bacon on anything, I'm like, absolutely, I will eat that. But then he just kept adding stuff, and I was like, okay, this should be disgusting, but it actually doesn't sound that disgusting.
That actually sounds pretty good. Minus the pickles, because pickles were created by the devil.
That's incorrect.
It is. No, that's a factual statement.
I will die on that hill. Pickles are the best thing to add to a sandwich.
Well, it's a weird hill to die on, but at least you're dead.
Nope, I'm still alive. Anyways, barring the pickle feud.
I will fight about pickles each and every time. No, okay. The game that BMO and Finn are playing when Jake walks in with his supplies. I don't want to harangue this too much, but I feel that BMO has an unfair advantage in that game.
I feel like he does, because it's his game.
Well, also it's his tiny fingers like up against Finn's boy size fingers. Like, it's,
to be fair, Finn deserves to lose a few times.
He does deserve to lose
after all the shit he's pulled lately.
Right. But I do like this episode, like, just kind of like taking Finn out of the game a little bit and just being like, you're just like kind of a participant.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. But I really enjoy like the escalation in this episode of like continuous like attempts at getting Magic Man out of the stasis field. Starting with like BMO, just like tricking them into making a skateboard video. I love that line of like, BMO, are you just making a skateboard video? And BMO's like, no, it's great. And then BMO, the line delivery of, he lied to me. It's so good. But also like PB and Marceline coming in. And I love that PB's first reaction is like, well, I'll just call Marceline.
Yeah.
I'll just call Marceline. She probably.
I mean, hello. Marceline is her person.
This is true. This is true.
It shouldn't be this shocking, Drew. Come on.
It's not. It's not. But it's still enjoyable. Yeah, and the end of the episode with Jake having to be sad inside the stasis field to beat up Magic Man is so good. And his imagined conversation with
Yes. It was fun to watch the field, whatever it's called. You said it, and my brain did not keep it in my brain. But like, it was fun to watch everyone try to interact with it, and then like get stuck in it, and just. But then eventually, Jake does get his sandwich inside the field. It's fun. It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah. Also,
But yeah, it was just a fun little episode.
It was very fun. But also, Jake. What was Jake thinking? Remaking his sandwich. Your bread's 5 hours stale. And also, you only put like lettuce on it.
Also, when you have genius come upon you for a sandwich like that, it doesn't strike twice. So you're never going to be able to recreate that wonderful sandwich.
But especially not with only stale bread
and cheese.
Lettuce. But yeah, great episode. It's just Magic Man is just this character that you can bring in for like any scenario to just fuck with people. Like no matter what it is, Magic Man can just appear and be like, I'm kind of bored. But yeah. Let's move on to the ball. Which kind of digs into like some of the thought processes of Finn, which is like, yeah, I can just put things in a ball. I can just like not have to deal with this thing that maybe feels bad. Keeping in mind that at the end of last season, one of his friends was killed and possessed by the Lich. And they have not gone back to that.
No. Because why does it matter?
Then it's fine.
Exactly.
But yeah, I enjoy this kind of like inclusion of a kind of reincarnation in this episode of like Finn's supposed previous lives. It's like a comet and a butterfly and a weird slime thing.
Also, this is the episode where Finn realizes just how old PB is.
Right, yes. And he's
like, you're pretending to be 19? You're creepy. Like, it's just like, sir, she's got magical abilities. Did you really truly think that she's that age? Oh, okay.
Right, but it also like spells out for us, the audience, like how old PB is. Or vaguely how old PB is. Because time is a wibbly wobbly thing on the show.
Absolutely.
Like we know that the timeline is like 1,000 years ago there was the Mushroom War. Where like all society was remade into this weird fuck land. And then somewhere along that line PB came in. But it's like I think PB's like 800 years old.
Yeah.
if I understand like Adventure Time lore enough. But it's still like it's very amorphous.
Yeah.
But I do like getting into like the early parts of like PB's Candy Kingdom.
Yes.
PB's having a rough time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like her Candy Kingdom was like in rough shape. So like I really enjoyed seeing that part of it. Like just how much of like an uphill battle PB had to like climb to make the Candy Kingdom work. Because like she had like rivers full of acid that she needed to like fill with candy. I know they're gang problems. Like it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Um, but I like Shoko, Finn's previous incarnation.
Yeah.
Which does show that like there is like the fact that Finn works with PB is maybe not as random as you would have thought. You know?
Yeah, and honestly, it took me till really the final moments of the episode for me to like really understand the full breadth of what was happening in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And like I like sat there thinking about the episode for a good 20 minutes after it ended, and I was like, that shows it was a good episode.
Yeah.
Because like it makes you like rethink what you thought you already knew about this show 5 seasons in. And that's really hard to do for an established show like this. And they managed to do it so beautifully.
Yeah, now I like this idea that maybe some part of Finn's, I don't want to say soul, but being was kind of drawn to PB, maybe to make up for past wrongs, or um, just because some innate feeling to like PB is actually good, you know, and PB will do good by Finn, by way of like residual feelings from Shoko.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed. Also, Shoko having one arm, and this continued like.
Well, like in the alternate universe, Finn only had one arm too.
Yeah, these continued like versions of Finn that only have one arm. I'm sure that won't come up again.
Oh, I'm sure it'll never come up again.
It's fine.
Finn, are you going to lose your arm?
No, surely not. Surely not. And
that would mean the show would have to be consistent.
That's true. Sure, it won't happen. But so the end of the episode with Finn ripping up his floorboards and finding the skeleton of Shoko with the medallion. So we're led to believe that Marceline built this house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marceline just, did she see this body with an amulet and just went, gonna ignore that, just build right over this? Like, because her body's right there.
Yeah.
For whoever built this house, if it wasn't Marceline, what was going on there? What was the thought process there?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. And even like if you don't think the body's a big deal, why would you leave an amulet there? Like, I have questions.
Yep.
But whatever. So let's move to the last episode, which is Blades of Grass, which I want to say at the top, Grass Sword is very important to Adventure Time lore, so you should pay attention to Grass Sword.
Okay. I kind of liked Grass Sword. I was like, first of all, this shouldn't make sense because it's made of grass. Um, Grass is not solid and like going to stay in one place, as you swipe it through the air.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Grass in general, like in my logical brain, I was like, it can't be a sword. Like, it's too flimsy, but like, that's the magic of it.
Right. It works. It just works.
It just works.
I mean, it's not just a grass sword; it's cursed grass sword. That's the important
Nah, who cares?
part.
Which is literally their opinion about it when it's revealed that it's a cursed grass sword. Finn and Jake are just like, nah, it doesn't seem to matter.
It's fine.
It's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, I do kind of like the end of that episode of like being like a minor allegory for like some kind of disability of like, because I remember when we were on an old podcast of mine, we were me and my co-host who is who was a paraplegic was watching an episode of Steven Universe, and the episode where Steven turns his fingers to cats. And she was like, that is actually a really astute allegory for like what it is to be disabled. Of like, the more you struggle, the more difficult it actually becomes.
Yeah, and I could see that allegory with this episode too. Like, especially because like the more he tries to take it off, the tighter it becomes on his arm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
So
I enjoyed that, and also like the grass sword is just, you know.
and I like the overall message at the end that like once he like accepted it and like just gave up fighting against it and decided to work with it, it made his life easier. And I feel like that's just very cognizant of a lot of things in life that like once you stop fighting it, it can actually become a strength and something that you're able to use to better your experiences in life.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. But also, like, the grass sword is just a very functionally very satisfying weapon. Like, in use is very satisfying.
Yeah.
Especially, and I think a lot of that comes down to like the animation of it cutting and also the sound effects of it like wishing through the air and like what was it, like cutting the pillow tag or slicing an apple. Like, it's very cathartically pleasing.
Yeah.
So we're like really digging into like that idea of like a curse, but like something that like kind of burrows into you.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, grass sword, very important. The object in the episode.
I don't know. I kind of want a grass sword.
That sounds pretty sweet.
And at the end, you could tell that Jake is very jealous of the fact that Finn has a sword like this. He's like, wait, but like, so now you're just going to accept it? I'm like, okay, buddy, your jealousy's showing. You just wish you were this cool.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay. So for next week, we're actually gonna be bouncing around a little bit. There were a couple episodes that I meant for us to watch and did not. So next week we're gonna be watching season 5, episode 42, entitled James. Episode 43, Root Beer Guy, and then episode 46, Rattle Balls. So to me, it's gonna be a very interesting week.
Yeah.
So fun times. We're approaching the end of the season, so finally.
Yeah. Finally. Listen, it's been going on for like forever.
Approximately forever.
I was about to try and say how many weeks, and then I was like, I don't even remember what week we started.
I don't remember. We are about halfway through the series, though, so
that makes me a little sad.
Yeah. So our next show, Dimension 20, season 1, episode 7, Graveyard of Good and Evil. So Sexy Rat is one of the worst things that Emily has ever done. It's just abhorrent. Did you get the Sexy Rat? I know you said you didn't watch the last.
Wait, what is it? Sorry.
Sexy Rat.
I'm trying to remember if I remember this.
So, Fig conjures it's very much what it sounds like. A sexy rat. That Brennan forces Emily to describe in detail.
I don't think I saw this part.
To lure out Zane Darkshadow's rat. It's just it's a very funny sequence because like it's one of the times where you get to see Brennan like really call Emily out on her bullshit when she does something crazy, but also like it's one of the worst things that Emily ever does. Like it's just abhorrent. But also Fabian hates it so much. And they bring back Sexy Rat like a couple more times in that episode, once to make it glow, and it's to make it as like a flashlight, and it's just no.
Yep.
Emily, just no.
Yeah.
You need to answer for your crimes.
I will forgive her for a lot of things, but no.
No. And also, like, hearing Emily describe Sexy Rat in detail, and then they animate the Sexy Rat.
Yeah.
No, Emily, just I love you dearly. But no, overall, I really love this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. I especially love the beginning with the sea casters.
Yes.
He's like, no, take some more, what is it, powder? Whatever powder.
It's essentially cocaine.
Right. No. They literally say that later on, but it was just like, he's literally looking at these children and saying, let me drug you up and make you drunk. Like, let me just continue to instill bad behaviors in you.
Yeah.
And Fabian's over here like, oh God, Dad, stop. You're embarrassing me. Like, just stop.
No. The thing I love about those scenes with Bill Seacaster at the beginning of this episode is it's really honing in on like what we've been saying for like the last few episodes of like, you all are getting better, but you're still making stupid decisions.
Yes.
Like you can see like this being the episode where Brennan's like, all right, we gotta have a call to Jesus moment here.
Yeah, he literally says to them, he's like, okay, when you're in the thick of it, how do you talk to each other without other people knowing that you're talking to each other? And so then they have a whole discussion about what languages they all know. And then they decide on like 5 or 6 Elvish words that they'll say. And it's just like, this is something that should have happened in like the first or second episode,
Right.
not this episode.
Well, and even more than that, like the sheer strategy of it. Because
Mhm.
this isn't like, a lot of D&D campaigns where it's like, oh, now we are thrust into a D&D story, This is a
Right.
world where it's very baked into the DNA. It's like it's not dissimilar structurally from like Harry Potter,
Mhm.
where it's like there are rules and there are strategies and there are ways that people have been doing this, and they go to school to learn to do this.
Mhm. Yep.
And so like there are ways to do this, and there are proper ways to do this, and there are like Bill says in this episode, like don't abandon your healer. Your strongest guys should be at the front.
Mhm.
There are ways that like there are tried and true ways that like because they're young and stupid and haven't been going to school or going to the right classes,
Mhm.
um like Fig, you should be in Bard classes. You should absolutely be in Bard classes. It's like since they're they're young and immature, they don't know like the right things to do. Like
Right.
they're what, like 15, 16 years old. Like you're stupid. You're just straight up kind of stupid.
And they're kind of supposed to be.
Yeah,
Like, and that's the beauty of it.
yeah. And so I do like that whole exchange of just Bill going, "You all gotta get your shit together, because if you don't, you really could die."
Right. Mhm.
um, yeah, and I love. I did love Fig being a little paranoid about that, and her role cat, her like perception rolls into Bill. It's like, no, you're just paranoid.
Yeah.
You're just high on stuff.
You're just high on stuff. You went a little hard at the Seacasters.
Right. Yes. Yes. Um, but also, I really liked all of the scenes with Galir going to school with Fig
Mhm.
and Joppo getting the job for Miller.
Yep.
It's so good. It's just so good. I love Joppo.
Also, can we talk about the fact that what was his name? The werewolf becomes the guidance counselor.
Right? No, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Okay, I couldn't remember his name.
yeah,
Couldn't
yeah.
remember his name.
Joppo. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. I was just like, that was one of the best character development arcs ever.
So good.
And Gil becomes the lunch lad.
That's
Poor guy.
that's one of those examples of Emily saying something bizarre and everyone else going, no. Please don't say that again. No. Also the the scene in the cafeteria when Riz tries to steal the tries to steal the first aid kit off the wall.
Oh my god. Yes. Yes.
Um,
And he's like and Gil's like, I don't really know what my job is, but um I'm not sure you should be doing that. He goes, my friend has a scratch. Okay, never mind, carry on. And it's like the only thing he had to say was my friend has a scratch. And Gil's just like, okay, sure, sounds legit.
that's fine.
You need the whole first aid kit for that.
Mhm. Oh, and I love the moment where they do the earthquake spell, and Gorgo goes tornado.
And they're like, this kid doesn't even know what an earthquake is.
Look, Zach's comedic timing is so good.
It's fantastic.
It's just, oh,
But yeah, this I'm really like I say this every week, but I really enjoy myself watching these guys make idiots of themselves every single week.
it's honestly so fun.
And oh my god, the conversation that Kristen Applebee's has with the teacher that's also
Um,
Helio is so fucking funny. Like I just like died laughing because like she's trying to get advice for herself and then she realizes and once she realizes that like he is so adamantly against anything and against Helio, she's like, "Well, my other friend is gay." Yeah, yeah, cut him out. Cut him out. It's just like she's trying so hard to just be like, okay, and she's having this crisis of faith, and she realizes she's like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm for this faith anymore. Like she literally hands him the bracelet about praying, and he's like, oh, you're not gonna wear this anymore, and she goes, oh yeah, I don't need that reminder to pray. Like it's funny, but it's also very like interesting to see that develop within Kristen as a result of all the things that have happened in the last, you know, few weeks or so at school. Um and it kind of points to like that bigger concept of, as we get older, the things that that were ingrained in us as children, like we start to question them and we start to be like, okay, what do I really believe?
right, and it's also like kind of a sped up deconstruction, because
Mhm.
in most cases it's either um, crisis of faith, as you said, or it's a sexuality crisis.
Mhm.
And here we kind of have to we kind of have to roll them in together, which Beardsley
Because they're kind of both. Yep.
yeah, Beardsley has kind of wisely decided to just conjoin. Um, because while we have many episodes, we don't have that much time to get into this.
Right.
So we got places to be, people. Got monsters to fight. um,
Yep.
yeah, but just a delightful episode. Um, yeah, I enjoy this show so much. Like every time I go back to watch the season, it's just so good.
Mhm.
So let's move on to our first real show of the week, which is Goosebumps, which is streaming on Disney Plus.
Yep.
First 7 episodes, I believe, are out as we're recording.
No.
7 or 8?
It is 9.
It's 9. Okay. I knew all but one episode of the show had come out.
Yep.
Okay, so it's okay. Cool. Yeah, it's 10 episodes. Cool. I knew that. So,
Yeah.
what do you think of Goosebumps?
Um to be fair, I never really read the books as a kid. Like I kind of did, but not like extensively. Like I read like maybe one or two. I was never really into that kind of stuff growing up. So like I went into this like, okay, I vaguely am aware of Goosebumps. I know what it is. I know what the concept is. And I found myself bored to tears. Like it's okay. It's very overly contrived in my opinion. It's trying really hard to be this like big mystery, and I'm just like I don't care. Um we're supposed to like be concerned about this kid that died 30 years prior, and it doesn't, like, as far as I've watched 4 episodes. I don't feel the urgency behind needing to find out how his death connects to these children, um or why it matters, because I'm just like, you could have just made this a show where random ass things were happening to these kids,
Right.
and that would have been fine. It would have been, lighthearted, silly, child's play horror thriller, and it would have been fine because that's basically what the books were. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um and but it's trying too hard to be something more substantial, and I'm like, you don't need to be, because these books were for children. This show should be geared towards a younger audience, not necessarily kids, but like it shouldn't be geared towards anyone higher than like 17, 18 years old. Like it doesn't need to go hard at all. And it tries to, and that's what I think messes it up.
Right, because that's what the original series from the '90s was. It's just episodic individual episodes of like weird things, you know.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and to like go to what you're saying about like the books, they're books geared towards like fourth to sixth graders,
Mhm.
like that's the target audience of this, and it feels out of step with this show. And that also goes to like the length of these episodes, where like most of these episodes are like 45 minutes long, and a show like Goosebumps should be a crisp 30 minutes long. Like I don't know what
Yep.
we're doing if this show is not 30 minutes long, because it should ape the style of the books, which are like these short, brisk chapter books that you just find in like a middle school library, you know?
Mhm.
Like these little things, and you're in here.
And they're not, yeah, they're not overly scary, but they're slightly terrifying enough that you're just like you get chills. That hence the title Goosebumps. Like it's not supposed to be hardcore scary crap. Like in the first episode, like that whole fire and spirit crap that happened on the football field, I was like, that was way too much, to the point of being comedic. Like, I just was like, this is ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's so dumb. It's so contrived. And then, like, oh, look at that. His arm is broken. Oh, darn. We could see that a mile away. Like,
Right, yeah, and like even on the scale of like programming geared towards children or like young preteens, like this is even like a little bit removed even from like Are You Afraid of the Dark, you know?
yeah.
Like Are You Afraid of the Dark is even like should be harder horrors than this, you know?
Hmm.
Um but yeah, like, and to kind of go off what you were saying, like um the original series and the books are like kind of this campy um spooky adventures, and
Yeah.
this, it is playing it straight, it is playing it seriously, and it thinks it's telling an actual story, right? Which isn't to say that like the originals weren't telling like actual stories, but like it's taking itself seriously, which is not the
I will. I will say, I think episode 4 is just the most ridiculous one, which we can talk more in depth about it at a later date, whatever. But one of the things about what I've seen so far about the season is the blonde mom of the kid Lucas. She runs the diner, country store, whatever the hell that thing is. Is it a store? Is it a food place? I can't really decide. Like it whatever. She is trying so hard to not come across as crazy, and by doing so, she's crazy. Like she's off her rocker, bonkers bananas to everyone else, but like the people that are involved in this, again, overly complicated situation of being haunted by this dead kid. Those people believe her because they are living it, but everyone outside of that in the town is like, lady, you need to be locked up. Like, and I'm like, you know what, she does, just let her go. Just lock her up, it's
Right.
fine.
Well, like it's trying to do the thing where like the kids are experiencing a different reality than adults are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like
It's
they're
also trying to make these adults villains, and we don't know the adults well enough to really care about that storyline.
right, and like there have been like actual studies done on this where like um kids enjoy watching shows where like the kids are on their own, but the parents aren't too far away from everything happening, but they're not too close to it, and like there's a natural balance. And this show feels
Mm-hmm.
out of whack of that balance.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like the first episode is bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the second
Yeah.
episode is somehow worse, which
The thing about the second episode is we like get more about Isabella, and this is where the show, I feel, is trying to also try to win brownie points for being like, hey, look, we talked about this kind of mental health thing. We talked about bad parenting. Like, look at us, kudos to us. And I'm like, no, we don't need lessons. We don't need lessons. Like, let this just be a fun, ridiculous show. Like just let it be unserious, and it'll be even better. And for some reason the writers were like, no, we're gonna go serious. And I'm like, okay, that's a choice.
right, and like Goosebumps did deal with like serious topics like this, but it was more contained. Whereas this series has to like pay attention to like a lot of different masters. Where like it has to tell us about Isabella, but it also has to um, be about the quarterback and his girl best friend and his girlfriend, and also make us wonder where James is. And like, it's doing too much. Where like by the end of it, I'm like, I don't actually feel like I know anything about Isabella, which feels like a failure of an episode. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
if the whole point of it is to dig into Isabella, and I'm just using Isabella as an example for what I'm sure is still holds true for the rest of the episodes. If I don't know anything about Isabella because it feels so thinly drawn, like what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Well, you see it in the first episode too with the quarterback. Like, yes, he is the center of this episode, but there's also so much else going on that you're just like, did I actually learn anything about this guy? No.
Right, and I don't like that guy.
I don't like that kind of writing, and I think that's why it's been such a struggle for me to like really care about anything with this show at all. Like, I'm watching it, yes, I'm watching it, but I don't care.
Right, and especially when like part of like the dramatic foil of the first episode is girlfriend is jealous of girl best friend,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, how have we not progressed past this point in like trope
Also, why
storytelling?
is girlfriend jealous of girl best friend? Because we didn't fully establish that at all. And I'm going to tell you, 4 episodes in, it's still not fully established as to why she's jealous. Like, it doesn't make sense from a standpoint of just that, oh, he occasionally talks to this girl, because it makes it very clear in the first episode that they don't really talk to each other very often anymore. And
Yeah.
so it's like, then why is the girlfriend jealous? If he was talking to her every single day and breaking things off with his girlfriend to go talk to her prior to this ghostly crap starting to happen, then maybe I'd understand the girlfriend's jealousy, but like it's not there. And so like there's this jealousy, and it feels like the writers are like, okay, what are things that happen to teenagers in high school? Oh, right, there's drama with relationships.
Right.
There needs to be a reason for the drama.
Yeah, and I like Issa Briones, who was on the first season, kind of the second season of Star Trek Picard before she was Poochie died on the way back to her home planet. But yeah, I was like, there's just not a lot there.
Yeah,
and like that's kind of true for like all the characters. I really like James. James is perhaps my exception.
I actually was looking into like who was playing what characters, because I didn't know anything about any of these actors besides Justin Long, and the blonde woman, because I've seen her in like a million things. But I was looking it up, and the actor is trans, and I'm like, oh, that's even cooler. It's not something they talk about or like make part of his personality, which again could also be really cool. But it's just like, oh, that's an interesting little tidbit. The actor is trans.
Yeah, and they're very
They're apparently a very famous YouTuber.
Yes, and they're a very cute, adorable, hapless gay. Like just
Also, again, how is he the quarterback's best friend?
right.
Like, I know how dynamics of high schools work, and there is nothing in the development of these characters that shows me why these two are best friends. Like, when did that happen? Like, have they always been friends? Like, I feel like they have been, because at one point, and I can't remember if it's in the first two episodes or not, but there's a point where James, Margot, which is the girl childhood friend,
Right.
and Isaiah, the quarterback, are all sitting around talking, and James makes the comment that they're not 7 years old anymore. So like clearly the three of them have known each other since they were kids, but like again, it still seems like logically, based on James's utter lack of interest in sports and Isaiah's whole personality being sports, that like eventually they would have like petered off a bit in high school, but I guess not. I don't know. This is me trying to think too critically about a show.
Right.
That's my problem.
Like James is also tragically uncool. And has
tragically
some of the worst game that I think I've ever seen put to screen.
Oh, just wait till episode 3 that centers on James and his lack of ability to game. It's really that's why I said to you prior to this recording, I was like, episode 3 was probably my favorite of all of the ones I've watched, which isn't saying much, but it's enjoyable because James is just James.
Like, you poor sweet baby.
He's poor sweet baby child.
So we'll touch more on this next week. Let's move on to our next show, which is the Buccaneers on Apple TV Plus. And the first 3 episodes are out. I've watched the first episode.
I have watched the first 3.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's playing in a very familiar sandbox, which is like Regency era dramas, you know,
female centered Regency era dramas, and
right.
I feel like it's trying too hard at times to fit in, while also trying to stand out, and it fails on both counts.
Right, because I think the Buccaneers kind of has to start out, unfortunately, has to start out from the position of validating its existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's to justify itself. Why are you a show that needs to um, be here in this moment? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept waiting for it to distinguish itself because, like, Regency stories are just not my jam typically. Like, I was never able to get into like Bridgerton. Um,
That's understandable.
but this does not feel distinct enough from Bridgerton or
Mm.
from any other, Regency drama that exists. You know,
So I love Regency dramas. I I don't care that much for Bridgerton, but that's just a styling choice of the storytelling. But like generally, I do enjoy period pieces. I do enjoy Regency dramas, and I was kind of excited about this because I'm like, oh, it's centered on these five girls, and we get to see them like experience new culture by going to England, which again, not much of a culture change, but like, okay, we're going with it, I guess. Um, but like, my problem I ran into with it was that I know they're trying to set it up that Nan is actually more of the center of the story than anything. Um, but again, you have five girls and you're trying to give generally equal amount of footing to each girl, and it doesn't always work out, and it makes the show feel like they don't know where they want to focus.
mm,
And it also feels like, as we get a little further in, that Jenny wants to be the main focus of everyone's attention. And so she lashes out jealously at Nan because Nan's just being herself. And her personality is just, honestly, Nan is more lovable and likable because she's not trying to be a stuffy little bitch, in my opinion. Like, her sister is very much trying to pretend to be somebody else. And so, like, it got kind of annoying all the times the show kept focusing on Jenny being annoyed with Nan and then like complaining to their mother about it. And I'm just like, can we move on? Because I don't care.
right. Well, like to quote Allison Johnson's review at Bowai, though, starting out the show with "I'm not the girl." Well, it was something like "I'm not the one."
Like, I'm not the one this is
Yeah, I'm
about.
not the one this is about. I'm
Something
not
like
like I'm not the main character. I think it was, and like
that. Mm-hmm.
that is the most aggressively protagonist shit I've ever heard in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like if
Yep.
you're trying to bury the lead on that, um, you are failing miserably by starting
Mm-hmm.
off on that foot. Um,
And like, I know we're supposed to somewhat feel sorry for Conchita. And I do like the actress that plays Conchita. I've liked her in a couple of the other things I've seen her in. But the problem I had with Conchita is that she's a spoiled brat. And I don't care for that. Even after she has her child, she still continues to be a spoiled brat because, oh my God, her husband has responsibilities and he doesn't want to stay home with her all the time. And he's a lord and he has a certain respectability about him and he expects her to be somewhat respectable and she's choosing not to. And it's like, girl, you need to calm down and just calm down. You need to calm down. Just
right,
calm down. So like some of these characters are great and some of them I'm like, I don't like you, so I don't care about your story, and then that takes out like a fifth of the episode and I'm just like, well, then what am I left with,
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's like if I truly wanted to watch like a feminist take on like this vague period of time in like British in like Britain, I would just watch Harlots
Mm-hmm.
again because Harlots is great. Um,
Yeah.
But like
And the
it did
other,
this kind of thing
yeah.
so much better.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing, like I mentioned this to you prior to recording, is that like they're trying to create villain stories out of some of these men. Like they're trying to paint Lord Richard, aka Conchita's husband, as this like uncaring asshole. And I'm like, no, really, he's just being a typical guy of the time. They're trying to paint Lord James, his brother, or I'm assuming it's his brother. I think that's how they're related. Whatever. Lord James as this man who abuses and uses women. And I'm like, are we really that surprised? Again, look at the time. Like, he's not really a villain if he's just of his time. And then it seems like they're trying to make it seem like this African American young man that keeps running into Nan is going to be like this alternate option for her affections. When this other guy Theo shows up, who actually is a duke, but he doesn't tell her he's a duke, and they like kind of fall for each other in the sense of, we don't know who each other is, and I'm not going to tell you that I have a title because I want to see if you like me for who I am.
Mm,
Kind of that play that they do in Regency era stuff.
right.
Um, and it works to an extent, but the other thing I found frustrating in the first 3 episodes is that Nan meets Theo on the tail end or the beginning of episode 2, and by episode 3 she's like engaged to him, and it's just like, this is annoying because there's no build up. There's no will they, won't they, who is she gonna choose? And so like that's where this African American guy, again, I don't know his name. Like that's the other thing, is like they haven't made him memorable enough for me to know what his name is. Um but I don't think they've even given his name, to be honest. To be honest, I don't think they've given his name. But like he's supposed to, it seems like they're trying to set him up as being this like, contender for her affections, but yet she immediately is just like, no, Theo, I'm good. I'm just like, but she starts off the series like 2 episodes prior saying, oh, I'm not interested in love and relationships and stuff. And when you realize that she's younger than Jenny and that she's like 17 or so, then it makes sense that she's not interested in that yet. But then 2 episodes later, which has probably only been a few months, she's like, oh no, yes, I'll marry Theo. And I'm just like, what? It's not terrible. It's somewhat enjoyable. I'm just like not sure how I'm supposed to feel about it because it feels like they don't even know what they're trying to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it says it does. Like,
and, and honestly, by episode 3, the characters I'm rooting for are the stuffy sister of Lord Richard and one of the friends. I think it's Lizzie. Anyway, they have this like kind of flirtatious thing going on between them, and I'm rooting for it.
all
I am rooting for the lesbians.
right.
I can't remember if it's Lizzie or Mabel, but it's one of the two, and they're like definitely having a hardcore fling feelings thing, whatever,
Right.
with the sister. Because there's this point in episode 2 where there's a hide and seek game going on, and they're both in the closet. Hit it on the nose, but they're in the closet and they're very close to each other and they're like stealing glances and it's very charged and you're just like, oh, that's cute. And then you realize why the sister's so snotty about this whole charade of finding a husband and thing. And you're like, oh, because she doesn't give a shit about men. And I'm like rooting for her. I'm rooting for her. She's the least obnoxious out of all the female characters. I'm like, I'm rooting for you.
Oh. Well, more on that next week. Let's move on to Bob's Burgers, season 14, episode 5. Believe it or not. And I gotta say, I'm not crazy about this episode, because part of the appeal of Zeke, right, was that he was this character who seemed like he could be a bully, but never was.
Right.
You know, like he has that demeanor. He like like he says in the episode, like he's always wrestling with Jimmy Jr. Like he's always has that kind of macho, like you know, a more 21st century Nelson from Simpsons, you know? Like he always has that demeanor, but he's not a bully. He's very expressly like he's a very kind and empathetic and gentle person despite having some of the more macho tendencies. And this feels like kind of a betrayal of that. I'm like, no, he really was a bully once. Because he was insecure and lonely or whatever. It feels like a wrinkle on a character that I did not need. You know? So that's where I'm coming at with the main part of the episode, and also, and I don't know, I don't know how aware you are of like behind the scenes Bob's Burger stuff. But we see the return of Jimmy Pesto in this episode, who has not been in Bob's Burgers or has not been speaking in Bob's Burgers for quite a while. Because the actor who previously voiced him took part in the January 6th insurrection and was promptly fired, which is the single funniest thing that could have happened to Jimmy Pesto.
Okay.
So this is the first time that they have recast the role. And this is a perfectly fine reintroduction to Jimmy Pesto.
Oh my god, the meatball pizza, like, or whatever it is. It's like you just put meatballs on a pizza.
You just put meatballs on it. Like both the burger and the pizza sounded awful.
Yeah, I know. Just like
atrocious.
But I love the guys that came into Bob's joint. The one refused to take his daily special, and then the next guy that comes in, they're all friends, and he's just like, "Don't make the same mistake. Order the daily special." But he orders it and still like pisses off Bob. So it's like, never mind. I don't know what wins.
Yeah. And also H. John Benjamin, who voices Bob, but also voices Jimmy Jr. I can't always tell if he voices both those characters, but I could really tell this episode.
Oh yeah,
I could really fucking tell this episode. Sometimes he's better. Sometimes he's better than other episodes at like disguising that, but no, not this episode.
You're like, not this time.
No. Also, guys, don't lick a booger wall. That's fucking disgusting, and you probably will catch something.
Also, why does a burger wall exist?
That's a good question. Elementary school nonsense, I would say.
Wait, are all these kids in elementary school?
Yes, I think.
Okay, listen. I should have figured that considering Louise's age, but like, I don't know. The others seem like they should be way older.
I think they are.
They probably are if they're all at the same school, unless it's one of those schools that like has all the grades.
Well, let's see what Google says.
Again, it could also be just one of those things that shows don't care to clarify, and my brain needs to know.
Well, it is a K-8 school.
Oh, okay, so maybe Tina and Jean are in middle school and Louise is in elementary.
Yeah. So I think Tina's in the 8th or the 7th grade. Louise is in the 4th grade, and then Jean's somewhere in the middle there. So like vaguely elementary school. I don't know.
It makes me think of, did you ever read or see Diary of a Wimpy Kid? You might have been like way above that, but I have younger siblings, so like I saw it.
Yeah,
But like it
I think
reminds
that's a
me of
little
the
past my
sticky
time.
cheese. It like makes me think of, so in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the first one, they go to middle school. Like that's the whole point, is this kid graduates to middle school, and his first day of middle school, he finds out that on the playground, on the basketball court, is this piece of cheese that has just been sitting on this basketball court for forever. And it's this thing of like bullies like make you lick it, like, you know, that kind of thing. So like this is vaguely reminding me of that, and it's just like middle school disgustingness.
Right.
Also, how is that cheese still like existing on the playground, on the pavement, through all these different seasons? Because like it makes it seem like it's been there for long enough for it to become like this lore related thing. But who knows? Again, my brain needs answers, and shows / movies don't provide.
So let's move on to our next show, which is Loki, season 2, episode 6, entitled "Glorious Purpose," which is the season / series finale. Maybe. Um,
Um, they might get. I think it's looking pretty strong that they might get a third season. I don't know.
okay. It effectively functions as a series finale.
Yeah, if they don't, yeah.
And if it is a series finale, I found it a very strong conclusion. Both
Right,
the
which is
series
why
and
I'm
Loki's
like,
character.
I thought it was a series finale, and then I was like on social media today and seeing a lot of people like talking about it as if it wasn't, and I'm just like, is there a question that it might not be? Like, oh, okay.
I think a lot of people are operating right now under the assumption that it is a series finale.
Yeah. And it's a good way to end it. Like I'm grateful that that's the solution Loki came up with, because the options that He Who Remains gives him are not ideal.
Yeah. Um,
And so I like the options that the option that he's like, wait a minute, I'm a god, I can do shit.
yeah.
It's like he suddenly remembers he's a god.
Not just him. I think the show remembers that he's the god. I think most of the time it forgets that Loki's actually a god. Often to its benefit.
Right.
But I'll allow some people that I think this finale and some of this season has kind of sidelined Sylvie a little bit, especially in the conclusion of this of this episode and of the season. But I'm not entirely bothered by that.
I don't really like her, so I'm
I
just
like
like,
I like
whatever.
Sylvie a good deal, but I feel like this is it's one of those things where it's like, is it good separated from the ship you have in your head, or is it, how interconnected are the two things? Because I think that's where a lot of people fall into a trap. Sometimes is it a bad thing for my ship, or is it bad?
Yes, and I see that a lot with a lot of shows. Like, something doesn't happen that looks good for the ship they have in their head. And so they're like automatically saying everything about this is bad. And it's like, no, you just are looking at it from the standpoint of that ship.
Right. And I've been there.
Which isn't ideal.
Yeah, I've been there. I watched 100. I watched Legacies. I know how it is.
I've been there.
Yeah. But, I think this leaves Sylvie in a good place to find her own path, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Maybe separated from Loki and the lore of Loki,
Yep.
Yeah, I like where it leaves a lot of the characters. I like that Mobius at least wants to go look at his old life, and Renslayer finally, the show finally addressing the fact that they pruned Renslayer a couple episodes ago, with her in the whatever they call it, Phantom Zone. Which I appreciate the kind of ambiguous ending they give here of either accepting her demise or running in staunch opposition to it.
Mm-hmm.
In this wonderful like Schrodinger's cat kind of way, where it could have been either, depending on if we ever see that character again. So I like that. I don't really know what the TVA is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Post Loki's decision, like what are they doing? Like what is the job now? Because the job used to be prune all of these timelines, and like whatever happened after that was kind of muddled by, oh, we have to make sure we don't all die.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the show ever expressed like what is the actual mission of the TVA now.
Yep.
Is it just to keep an eye on things? Because it feels like,
yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard to say.
yeah,
And the fact that Mobius can just walk away and not have that be an issue, makes it seem like it's a very chill kind of thing.
right.
And they still have the war room, but like she walks into the war room and it's very calm. People are smiling and chatting and milling about, and you're like, okay, that doesn't seem like a war room. Like,
No,
so it seems to me like, yeah, things have definitely like just chilled out, and so I think they're just making sure that more issues don't come up.
right, yeah. It never really addresses Victor Timely.
Nope.
Just kind of forgets about that at the end of the episode. But I think it does leave the Marvel Universe in a position where it never has to address Kang ever again if it doesn't want to.
Yep.
It can just forget about all of that, which is good. Which honestly is probably for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But overall, I'll concede that some of it was a little rushed, some of it was a little haphazardly put together, and you kind of lose sight of that in all of the various time jumps that happen throughout this episode. Where you're just at the end, you're just kind of like, okay, that's fine.
Yep.
So it gets away with a lot of what it should not.
Yeah. But I feel like Marvel plays fast and loose with that stuff all the time.
Right.
So
yeah,
they're like, don't look too closely. It'll work itself out.
Yeah, it's fine. So let's move on to our last show of the week, which is Found Season 1, Episode 6, Missing While Addicted. And I continue to be quite ambivalent about the show. I think I was thinking about this the other day. If there was not if there was not a strike going on, and the fall season was not affected by the strikes, this is probably a show we would not continue talking about.
Right.
On a
I
regular
would have
basis.
given up on this around this point. I'd have been like, I'm too frustrated. Goodbye.
Yeah. I think Quantum Leaps also we would also probably not be talking about Quantum Leap week in, week out.
Yeah.
But but anyway, you know what? The TV schedule is what it is, so we are still talking about it. Yeah, like just it continues to be fine, but also, as you said, frustrating.
Yeah, because like it again, we are operating under the knowledge that there is more to these characters than has been revealed, because clearly everyone on this team is broken in some way. And Gabby seems to be the only one that knows everything about each person. Okay, that's frustrating because you can't truly be a team if you don't know who you're working with. Point blank. And we're supposed to believe that these guys are really close when the biggest parts of themselves are not revealed to anybody but Gabby.
Right.
And that's like my biggest frustrator with this. Like, I know there are other things that are frustrating, but like that's the biggest one for me, because I'm like, just and Ashley at Telltale reviews this show on a weekly basis, and I read her review this week, and she talked about how she loves that the show is pacing it this way and like revealing things naturally. And I'm just like, but they're revealing them in a way that makes it seem like this team that has worked together for years didn't already know this about these people. And that's the problem. Like, it's fine if you want to reveal this kind of information to the audience at this pace, but if you're also then turning around and saying the team themselves didn't know these things about these characters, that's a problem. Like, you can't be a functioning team and not know this stuff.
Right. Yeah. What I was also thinking about like how like the closest parallel to the show is Scandal, and how Scandal was able to dig in a lot deeper than I feel like this show is capable of. Because it's trying to evoke that, but also like strictly on like a case by a case of the week level. It can't dig in too deep because it is at its heart a procedural. You know, like the focus is finding these people, like going down investigations and finding them. Where like I feel like in Scandal, it was all about like let me like burrow into this person that we're spending time with this week and figuring out everything that makes them tick. You know?
Yep.
And this just feels like a pale comparison. You know? Where like there you can't have that investigation into a person the same way that Scandal is able to. And in the same way, you can't like dig into your characters in the same way. Like, you can't dig into your team because there's like this held at arm's length mentality to it, which goes to like what you were saying. So like, and like that all just creates an incredibly frustrating experience.
Yeah. And that's not to say that some teams don't operate like that, but if you're doing the kind of work that they're doing, you need to be able to rely and trust each other unequivocally, because you're working outside the law, so to speak, because they're not part of the police, they're not part of, any official entity. they're just doing what their clients have asked them to do. So you have to be able to trust that these people have your back. And I'm like, how can you trust that person when you don't even know them?
Right. And that's not the way that this team has been drawn.
Right.
This team has been illustrated to be close, to be almost a family. And you can't you can't in like one breath say these are like the closest people in my life, and also they don't know anything about me.
Right. Like, and it makes me question, I'm like, do they know Lacey's real identity? Or do they know that Gabby was once kidnapped? Like, do they know, they're starting to realize the things about Dawn, but it's just like, it's just not working out for me. It's at this point in the relationship that I say, it's not you, it's me.
Right. Yeah, so again, this would be the point that we would probably stop watching. But
right. And it's sad because the character of Sir had potential, but like at this point, again, we're still grasping at straws as to figure out the full nature of everything that's happened, which is fine. But like, if we're supposed to be making forming an opinion about this character on whether or not we could trust him, I don't know. I need to have something to go on.
Right.
Because right now I'm very confused because one week I don't trust him, the next week I do, and I'm like, I can't live my life like that.
But also, Mark Paul Gosselaar is delivering great performance every week.
Absolutely.
Like,
he's doing a phenomenal
he is
job.
killing it.
And Shanola Hampton's doing a phenomenal job as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the writing is just not there.
Yeah.
They're trying.
Yeah, it's a shame. So that's it for this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about A Murder at the End of the World, which is the new Brit Marling series on Hulu. And also the UK version of Ghosts, which will be airing on CBS going forward. So look forward to both of those. Until then, Matt, where can we follow you online?
You can follow me at Dorothy NYC89 on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, all those places. And if you want to read my words, there aren't a whole lot of them right now because there's not a whole lot of shows going on. But if you want to dive further back, you can at telltaletv.com.
Nice. And you can follow me on Twitter at the Drew Koenig and on Blue Sky at Drew Koenig. You can find the podcast on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Not Another TV Podcast. And you can email us at notanothertvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions, listener submissions, goat recommendations, show suggestions that you have. You can find more of the podcasts on Apple and YouTube, along with any other podcasting service that you use. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe, and be sure to share us on all of your social media platforms. Until next week, please remember, and I will continue to do this until people actually listen to me, do not go in the ocean. It's none of your business. If you go in the ocean, I hope the orcas get you. Good day.